This is part 21 as far as our series of lectures is concerned. During course of time when we shall be learning in detail the Criminal Procedure Code, we will understand inquiries and trial. And at the time of conducting an inquiry or a trial, a court can compel appearance of a person in court of law whose presence is must in a court of law from the point of view of administration of justice. Hence, this chapter enumerates the ways and means in which it is possible for the court of law to compel appearance of a person in court of law, namely, court has got a sanction. The first way in which court can ask a person to appear in a court of law by issuing what is known as a summons. Summons is addressed to an individual. Summons is always in writing. Summons is always in duplicate. Summons is required to be signed by the presiding officer of the court or any other officer who is authorized by the rules made by the High Court in that behalf, and it must bear the seal of the court. Then only it can be a valid summons as far as section 61 of the Criminal Procedure Code is concerned. The further part tells us when the summons can be duly served upon a person, and for this, as we go on reading further part of the Criminal Procedure Code as far as this chapter is concerned, we understand that there can be a personal service of summons. Summons is handed over to the police officer or any other officer of the court as per stated by the government, and he shall go to the person to whom the summons is addressed, and he shall hand over a copy of the summons to him by requesting him to sign on the back of the duplicate. This is what is known as personal service of the summons. As far as possible, summons is required to be served on person with a due diligence, and then if it is not possible for the person serving the summons to find out the person to whom the summons is required to be served, then the next step that can be taken by him, he can go to his place and hand over a copy of the summons to any adult male member of the family. And if you read section 64 along with the explanation which clearly lays down, a servant is not a member of the family within the meaning of this section. So it can be served upon, a copy can be served upon any adult male member, and obtaining his signature on the back of the duplicate. That is what is known as extended service of the summons. If it is not possible for him to find out the person to whom the summons is required to be served, or there is no adult member who is at the place where as far as his family is concerned, then the next step that can be taken by the serving officer, he can affix a copy of the summons on some conspicuous part of the house where the person ordinarily resides, and this is what is known as substituted service of the summons. So, the summons may be served personally. There can be what is known as extended service of the summons, or there can be what is known as substituted service of summons as far as this part of the chapter is concerned. Now, it also lays down as to what should be done with respect to corporate bodies or the societies, how a summons can be served. And then it says it can be served upon secretary, local manager or principal officer of the corporation, or by sending a letter by registered post to the chief officer, and then it can be said that it is what is known as summons is duly served as far as the with respect to the corporate body is concerned. When summons is required to be served as far as government servant is concerned, a copy of the summons along with the duplicate can be sent to the head of the department. Head of the department will call the government servant and he will hand over a copy of the summons by getting his signature on the back of the duplicate which is returned to the court of law, and then it can be said that the summons was duly served. Now this is with respect, summons can be served anywhere within the jurisdiction of the court, within whose jurisdiction the person to whom the summons is served is there. What happens when the summons is required to be served beyond the territorial jurisdiction of the court which has issued it? In that case, the court summons along with its duplicate will send it to the magistrate within whose jurisdiction a person who is required to be summoned is residing, and that magistrate will follow the procedure as discussed earlier, namely personal service, extended service and substituted service, and then it will be what is known as duly served. Now the person who has served the summons may not remain present in a court of law where the person is required to remain present, and hence such a serving officer will make an affidavit, and then that affidavit, a copy of that affidavit will be accompanied by a summons which is sent to the court which had directed that summons to be served, and this affidavit is proof of the fact that the summons was duly served. With this now, the last part as far as summons with respect to the witness is concerned is enumerated as far as section 69 is concerned, and it says, in addition to the personal service of the summons, court may give a direction that there should be the witness may be served by sending a copy of the summons by what is known as registered post acknowledgement due, and when he has received the same, or when there is an endorsement which is made by the postal employee that he refuses to receive the summons, that will also be what is known as duly service of the summons as far as section 69 of the Criminal Procedure Code is concerned. So in order to learn regarding summons, we have to first of all know what do you mean by valid summons, and when it can be said that summons was duly served are the details for which you have to refer to right from section 61 up to section 69 of the Criminal Procedure Code. As I had told you earlier, this is a time for you to refer to form number 1, form number 30 and form number 33. So all the details which are required to be mentioned at the time of issue, as far as the summons is concerned, of which you will be aware, which are nowhere mentioned right from section 61 up to section 69 of the Criminal Procedure Code. Now if the person was duly served with a summons, and in spite of the fact that he was duly served with a summons, a person doesn't remain present in a court of law as per the time and the date which is mentioned in the summons, then now this is a time for the court to take next drastic measure, and the drastic measure that can be taken by the court of law is that court has got power to issue what is known as warrant. Now in order to understand the provisions regarding warrant as far as this chapter is concerned, which is the second measure or the second way or the step as far as the sanction which is given to the court of law to compel appearance of a person in court of law is concerned, is dealt right from section 71 up to section 80, right from section 70 up to section 81 of this particular chapter of the Criminal Procedure Code. So what is warrant? If you read section 70, it clearly lays down warrant must be in writing. 2. Warrant is required to be signed only by the presiding officer of the court, and warrant must also bear the seal of the court. Now warrant can remain into force until it is executed or cancelled by the court which has issued it, So there is no fixed time, because what is warrant? Warrant is addressed to the police officer, namely it is a direction which is given to the police officer to arrest a person and bring him before the court of law. Warrant is ordinarily addressed to the police officer for the purpose of arresting a person and bring him before the court of law. But if you read section 72, which clearly makes mention that warrant can also be warrant if no police officer is available, warrant can be also addressed to a private individual for the purpose of execution, as far as section 72 is concerned. When we start reading warrant, you will come to know warrant may be, what do you mean by bailable warrant and non-bailable warrant. If you read section 71, which clearly lays down, court at the time of issuing a warrant may make an endorsement at the foot of it, that if the person is ready and willing to give bond to appear in a court of law as per the time and the date which is mentioned, then he can be released or he can be set free. And this is, he can be released on bail. This is exactly what do you mean by bailable warrant, which if you read the section that tells you the number of sureties that are required, when he is required to come to the court of law, all details are mentioned as far as the endorsement which is made by the court of law is concerned, as far as section 71 is concerned, which is a bailable warrant. If person is arrested and if when it is a bailable offence, he is released on bail, he is expected to remain present, and if he doesn't remain present on that particular day, court will go to the extent of issuing what is known as a non-bailable warrant. What do you mean by non-bailable warrant? Person to whom the non-bailable warrant is issued is required to be arrested by the police officer and is required to be brought before the court of law as per the provision. So this is what is known as non-bailable warrant. Summons is required to be served, whereas the warrant is required to be executed. Summons is addressed to an individual, whereas warrant is addressed to the police officer by giving a direction to arrest a person and bring him before the court of law. With this now, there can be execution of warrant anywhere within the territory of India, and now if the warrant is required to be executed outside the jurisdiction of the court which has issued it, then the court can send a warrant to the executive magistrate or district superintendent of police or the commissioner of the police, and he will see that the warrant, he will get the warrant executed and the person arrested is produced before the court of law which has issued the warrant accordingly. When a police officer from one jurisdiction goes for the purpose of execution of the warrant outside the jurisdiction of the particular court, then in that case he will go to the either executive magistrate or the officer in charge of the police station. He will get his endorsement on the warrant, and after getting his endorsement on the warrant, he will get local assistance for the purpose of the execution of the warrant as is required. So this is regarding warrant right from section 70 up to 81 of the Criminal Procedure Code, which deals with warrant. This is the next measure that can be taken by the court of law and this is a sanction to the court of law. If the person is not ready and willing, person can be compelled by the court of law to remain present in a court of law for various reasons with which we had dealt last time, and hence this is the measure that can be taken by the court of law. With this now, if the person doesn't remain present, or if it is not possible, if even though the summons was served, he doesn't remain present, and if the warrant could not be executed, then there are other measures which can be taken into consideration by the court of law for the purpose of compelling appearance of a person in court of law, with which we shall be dealing as far as next part of our series of lecture is concerned.